You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 455 of Podketeers. This week we talk snow at Disneyland, we celebrate a big milestone for Larry, we get a trailer for the upcoming Haunted Mansion film, and spoiler alert, it looks good. There's news about a potential successor for Bob Iger, a longtime Imagineer returns to WDI, we kick off March Mayhem, and wrap it all up with our Disney history segment, Great Moments with Mr. Andrew. We'd love for you to join the conversation on our social networks, including Instagram and Facebook, but we invite you to join us on Discord. Joining the community is super simple. Just head on over to podketeers.com/links and click on the Discord button to join our community. A very special thank you goes out to an awesome group of listeners known as the FGP Squad, our podcast Fairy Godparents, because it's their support via Patreon that help make these episodes of Podketeers possible. As part of the FGP Squad family, you get some additional perks like exclusive discount codes for Podketeers gear, additional content like the Podketeers after show, and access to our happy hour calls, just to name a few. For more information on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, we invite you to check out podketeers.com/FGP. And as always, a super special thank you goes out to the FGP Squad for their continued support. All right, so that's it. That's going to wrap up the intro. We're going to jump right into this episode. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome. We hope that you enjoy the episode and that you come back for more. And of course, if you've been hanging with us for a while now, welcome back, friends. Here is episode 455 of Podketeers.
The weather outside is frightful, but
And
the
the
fire
snow
is so delightful. The snow is so delightful. No, because there's no
was.
place to go. Let it snow.
Let it snow.
Let it
snow at Disneyland.
Let it grapple. Let it grapple. Let it grapple. It doesn't work very well. Let it grapple.
No.
They don't really write too many songs about grapple or sleet.
Is it
or-
grapple or grapple?
I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
It's probably grapple.
'Cause-
It's probably grabapple.
Gervapple.
I had no idea that was a word to describe any type of falling ice until I started reading all of the articles. To catch everyone up that's listening, here in Southern California, it's very rare that we see any type of ice or snow unless you're up in the mountains. The beaches are the beaches, and, I think Disneyland is far away enough from the mountains that it doesn't commonly see the icy goodness of snow or hail, as much as other areas. But this last week, it grappled enough that it looked white on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like the attractions had this icy looking goodness to them. And I started watching videos get posted on social media, like even the Disney Parks account on TikTok was like, it's snowing at Disneyland, and they're showing little snippets of it and stuff like that. I mean, one, I don't think anybody's ever prepared for something like that because, quite frankly, it never happens.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, people are feeling the icy cold of this grapple.
I looked it up.
And
It
they're all-
is grapple. I looked it up.
It is grapple?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Google pronunciation.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, and so everybody's like, it's snowing. Oh, it's hail, but it's snowing. And then all of a sudden there was all these articles like, well, it snowed at Disneyland, but it really didn't snow. It was something called grapple and sleet. And I was like, okay, well, why do you have to burst our bubble? Just let us think it snowed, okay? Like, it wasn't Snope. It was actual snow.
Yeah, party poopers. Every
It
party's
was.
got a pooper, and it's you.
So, Mel, you're closest to the epicenter of where all of this happened. What was it like on the day that Disneyland received this grapple fall?
It was okay. Besides being really cold, I actually got to see the cloud before it actually happened, and we were in, I want to say, in passing period for classes. So we were walking to our next class, and I honestly thought, oh, this is going to rain. Like, this is dark that's coming over us. And it didn't. And then I heard from other students, oh my God, my friend said it's snowing outside. It's snowing outside. All of us, we all like went outside to look at this because it doesn't snow here in Anaheim at all. So I got to see this through the window before going outside, and it was white. Like, rain is just rain, right? Lines and whatever, dots. No, this was white, like color white. And I've never seen that. So there was like, it was fun, exciting, and it kind of didn't melt on the floor. So you saw like these little like bunches of, I guess, mud, chocolate snow.
Chocolate snow.
I was just gonna do the same thing.
It was a joke because, like going back to Pixar, can't think of it. Monsters Inc. There you go. When they're in the Himalayas and they're like talking about the yellow snow. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was really, really cool to see. And the air was so cold, like as if you were at Big Bear. I mean, I think I wore 3 layers on top and 2 on the bottom, 2 pairs of socks. Yeah, I was dressed for Big Bear. So yeah.
Andrew, didn't you get some snow up there recently?
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow. It was actual snow at our house. It was probably just right after we recorded, or maybe right before. I don't remember last. But yeah, we got some snow. We're at about 1,200 feet elevation wise, so still kind of low. But there has been just weather warning. All my devices have been telling me of severe weather warnings because I'm very close to the Donner Pass. I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Donner Pass. It's right up the freeway from us, so we see all the road signs all say, chains, carry chains, unsettled weather, or we'll get the closed at so-and-so exit, closed here, closed 21 miles ahead. So depending on how the weather is, it's we'll get the semi-trucks and cars and stuff coming down with snow on top, and then it blows off, hits your windshield. It's great. I love it. But yeah, we got a little bit of snow. It stuck to the ground, and almost as quick as it came, it disappeared because the rain followed pretty quickly thereafter.
While you were speaking, I had to hold back my dadness.
Yeah.
Because you were mentioning Donner Pass, and in my head, I'm all like, oh, is that like near Blitzen Lane?
Oh, jeez.
No, Donner Pass, the famous Donner Pass, where people got eated. You know that one? You learned about it in school. That's the one.
Is it really?
Yes, that's like Donner Lake and the Donner Party that took place. Donner Pass.
That's a weird turn for the podcast. I'm trying to be all dad and funny. It's like, well, then, I got this for you.
Well, there's a little education for you, kids in the minivan. You'll learn about the Donner Party, I'm sure, when you learn about California history at some point.
Sheesh.
That took place not too far from where I live.
I'm going back to Santa's Village talk.
Okay,
I like that.
Donner and Blitzen, but do you recall the most famous reindeer of all?
That's right, Steve.
So,
I think it's fairly well documented, if you've been listening to the podcast for some time, that I've never really seen snowfall. Like, I live so close to the mountains, yet I've never been in the snow. I've never seen snowfall like live. I've seen some of it kind of gathered and melting, but this Gruppelfall was, I think, the closest I've ever come to that in real life. And it made me want to go up to Big Bear and just kind of enjoy some of the snow and some of the crazy weather that we've been having to see if I can actually catch real snow, because from what people describe to me, it feels like this powdery goodness, and that's like never fully like computed in my head because it's ice. How could it feel like powder, right? So I know that once I actually see it, feel it, experience it, I'll understand that. But as of right now, powdery snow, knowing that ice is hard, just doesn't compute in my head.
All
Like
right,
snow
so
cone stuff.
yeah, I was gonna say, so you get a snow cone and you don't put
Yeah.
any flavor on it. Just put that in your hand and you'll get a good idea. I mean, it's probably still a little more wet than snow is.
Yeah.
Like snow is, because it's so cold out. Typically, when it's snowing, the snow stays quote unquote dry. So it's powdery, I guess, but it's more
not, like,
it's like
slushy.
crunch. It's like crunchy. You step in snow, it's fluffy. Snow's a good time. Yeah, I used to live at a higher elevation, and when I was in high school, and it snowed every winter at my house, and we'd get like a foot or two of snow, and we'd get a couple snow days a year. And yeah, snow's fun. It's that thing where you do it when it's raining too. You just kind of like stand and just look out the window and contemplate your life while watching the snow fall from the sky. You're like,
Aww.
I'm in the warm house. Not like a bad thing. Like just like
Right.
thinking about like, oh, I'm inside and it's warm and there's snow outside. Maybe get a hot drink. It's nice. Watching snow fall is kind of nice. Like just like rain. I mean, it's the same idea with rain. You just sit and watch
I
the
was
rain
gonna
inside.
say, I like doing what you described with rain.
Yeah. It's just like a lot. The other weird thing about snow is because it's white, it reflects light. And so once like there's snow on the ground, the like look of the outside changes because light is reflecting more off of the ground. And so it just looks different. It's a very weird thing to think about. But yeah, snow's cool. You should go to the snow. It's fun.
Nice. I am surprised though that Disney always tries to incorporate their properties into really anything having to do with the parks, and I'm so surprised that not once did I see the Disney Parks TikTok or Instagram or anything mention Elsa or Olaf or like nothing. Like,
Yeah.
we got nothing.
It was just one Matterhorn reel. One. I'm like, this is the one time to go outside and be out there with a mountain with snow. Nothing. I mean, thank you, Ken, for making that, but no one thought of the Matterhorn? Come on. For shame.
Right?
I would've ran.
Yeah. And it's probably, I'm the party pooper on all these ones, but all these Instagram posts are set up, weeks
Oh,
in
yeah.
advance. And so something happens that is not prepared for. They're like, snow. Okay, there it is. Snow's here. Okay, better post about it right now. It's here, the
Yeah.
snow. I follow the ambassadors, the Disneyland ambassadors on Instagram, and they posted a few things. I don't think they mentioned Elsa, but I did see them. They posted the Toontown grass covered in snow. I remember that.
Yeah. I did
Okay,
see that.
that's cool.
It's funny. You remember at D23 we went to the panel with the ambassadors, and they were talking about how they were establishing social media and all that stuff in Paris, and they kind of brought it over here and all that stuff.
Yeah. And we got Piece of Wood.
I do feel that the ambassador account seems to do a better job at times, like showing what's going on in the park than the Disney Parks account itself does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I follow the ambassadors. There's a couple like cast member life page, and there's a couple other pages that I follow that seem to, again, more post to the day to day of the parks, especially Disneyland, because the Disney Parks blog or Disney Parks Instagram, whatever you want to call it, is posting for parks across the world, mainly the 2 U.S. resorts. But yeah, it's nice to follow. I mean, even the Disneyland specific page is mostly just about offerings and very polished, press releases versus the ambassadors and the cast member life and the different pages
Right.
that just show the day to day, which is like what that's what I'm interested in anyway. Like I'm interested in all of it, but I do want to see like what's what are the Indiana Jones cast members up to today, or what are the janitorial cast members doing today, or whatever. And those pages seem to post stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's one of the days that I feel like I wish I was in the parks, to experience. Yeah. There's a lot of like firsts that I think I've had an opportunity to experience in the parks. When I was more actively doing photography, I remember one of the biggest things that I had been looking forward to was being in the park late enough to snap a photo of a full moon as close to the Matterhorn as possible. And so there was like all these like little things that I was looking forward to, but anybody that had snowing at Disneyland on their bingo card just won the game. Like that,
Right.
If you were in the park for that and got a chance to photograph it, video it, whatever, that's it right there. You won. Bingo. Let's see. Oh, hey, speaking of park stuff, can we send a shout out and congratulate Larry?
Yes.
Goofy Guys Adventures on YouTube. Woo-woo. He's been like just post after post. He's been doing a lot of live streams, and at first he was trying to hit the 2K goal. He hit that. Then his next goal was trying to hit 3K, and this last week he finally did it. So congratulations, Larry, hitting 3K. That's awesome. I love it.
Totally awesome.
Yeah. So if you're not following, head over to podketeers.com/links. If you scroll down, you'll find both of our YouTube pages. We're not as active as Larry is. Larry's in the park 2 to 3 times a week, and he's live streaming the shows and the experiences and his experiences and stuff like that. So if you like live streaming from the parks, check out Goofy Guys Adventures for a good time. Let's see. What else? Oh, March Mayhem is ready to go. We're launching it finally.
I don't know what the music sounds like. I can't remember.
A big apology to everyone because my intent was to launch on the 6th, which was Monday, March 6th, and adulting happened. And before I knew it, life kind of took over, and life was like, hey, you got these other things you got to take care of before you launch March Mayhem. And I was like, but I said March 6th, and life was like, no, take care of this other stuff first. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then I did it, and then it was March 7th, and then we realized, oh, we should launch it tomorrow. And so March 8th, the day that this episode launches, we're launching March Mayhem.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not, yeah. I will say there is one change that I think I'm going to implement this time around because it became a little difficult. And it's something that's been difficult the last couple of years maintaining it. And that is we were trying to post at noon. So new posts for voting would go up at noon. But because of work and school schedules, like sneaking away for a 15-minute break or taking our lunch breaks to coincide with that and not have a meeting or something was becoming too difficult. So I think what I'm going to do is we're still going to have it Monday through Friday, but I think we're going to do it in the evening because most people are kind of on social media in the evening anyway after work or, they're just kind of scrolling during dinner time or after dinner, whatever the case is. So I'm probably going to be posting them at 6 p.m. going forward. That way there isn't, any, I don't have to freak out about whether or not I'm going to be able to take, 15-minute breaks or whatever to post it. Again, most people are just scrolling through social media at that point in the day anyway, so it just makes sense to post it later.
And those links are good for 24 hours, right? So you get a whole day regardless. So whether you see it that day or you see it the next morning while you're scrolling through Instagram, it's still valid. We won't tally the votes until it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really more for my sanity, where I'm not running around in the middle of the day trying to figure out whether I'm going to be able to post this thing or not. So yeah, but towards the end of the day, it's just easier because if anything, if I can't post it, one of you could post it, and then, life is good. So,
sure.
But so if you're familiar with March Mayhem and you remember us posting in the middle of the day, just fair warning, It's going to be posted in the evening now, just to kind of coincide with our schedules. Also, big change this year for March Mayhem. Normally we start with a Sweet 16 bracket, and this year we went with 32 to start off. So there's going to be some days where we might double up or triple up or, I don't know, quadruple up, whatever we need to do to get through this in March. But there was so many quotes. Okay, so I know there's going to be a question about this, so I just want to get this out of the way. I know I talked about it in another episode. We brought it up because in previous years, Gavin has been, gracious enough to help me with seeding. Like, Gavin's a big basketball fan. Like, he knows about brackets. Like, he knows about how to set them up. And so in the past, he's just helped us do it.
Yeah.
And then he tried to teach me how to do it. And I kind of have the gist of it, but I'll tell you the truth. It was easier to copy the list of all of the participants, like all of the quotes that we had, right? And there was a lot. And then in the next column in Excel, just assign a random number to it. And the first 32, whatever got 1 through 32, would be part of the bracket. Now, technically, we have enough where if we wanted to, like, there's so many quotes. Like, remember, these were supposed to be quotes that spanned like 100 years of Disney. That didn't quite happen. A lot of them are newer quotes within the last few decades because, they're the most popular quotes. But
yeah,
if we wanted to, we could technically do a second version of this in April. We could do another one next year, like a part dukes, whatever you want to call it. But, so I just took the first 32. With the exception of 2. The 2 that I manually inserted, and I just assigned 2 random numbers to them. They just happened to be across from each other, which I just thought was pretty funny. So we added Pirates of the Caribbean, and we added Big Thunder Mountain. So the old prospector is a wildest ride in the wilderness, and then Dead Men Tell No Tales from Pirates. Those were 2 that we definitely wanted in there. I didn't realize where the Pirates one ended, and so there's a part of me that's a little worried because I think the Pirates quote is going to be much more popular than I Am Iron Man. I didn't realize that it's going up against Tony Stark.
I don't know. I mean,
that's
pretty that's pretty good odds depending on who your audience is that day. On seeing you got Marvel
that's
people,
true.
you got Iron Man. He's
That's
pretty
true.
popular. He's a pretty popular character. If you didn't know, people
I think
they
some
like
of these
that
are
Iron
going to be
Man.
tight.
Is he really
people
popular?
like that Iron Man. Yeah, some reason.
That's
I
good
don't
to
know.
know. It
people
gives
like
me
him.
some hope.
Yeah.
So the other side of the bracket, we have part of the spiel for Big Thunder Mountain.
This here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Thank
That
you
one.
for that. That's going up against To Infinity and Beyond.
Yeah, you know what? That's another
That's
big
a good matchup.
So I think it's a good variety, with what we ended up. Again, depending on how this goes, we'll see if we end up doing a second version of it. I just want to get through this one first. But yeah, there's some interesting ones in here. There's some that just are laughable because it was so random, like Genie versus Homer.
I was just
Right?
looking at that
Doe
one.
versus 10,000 years. Can give you such a crick in the neck. Those are just downright laughable, and some of them are just like absurd. Let's see, Powerline versus Mufasa.
This should
is
be
one
like
of the
a
matchups.
like a Street Fighter game.
Oh.
Powerline versus Mufasa, Chef Gusteau versus Edna Mode.
It's
Final
funny that you
rounds.
mentioned that. It's funny that you mentioned that because one of the things I've always wanted to do when we do March Mayhem is I actually purchased music that we use. So the intense sports beat that you hear
Yeah.
in the March Mayhem post is just music that I license for us to be able to use for stuff like this. But every time that I posted, I always wanted to use the Smash Bros. Melee menu because in TikTok and Instagram posts are like, choose your fighter. And I they take it down every so often, so I don't want it to just kind of sit there without music. So I ended up
Yeah.
licensing music for it. But I'm totally with you. If we had like Disney Melee or something, like
video
with
game
all of
people,
these,
get
that'd
on
be
it.
great.
Add
Add it to Dreamlight Valley. Add a fighting component to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You get to go to a gym and then just play right there.
Remy versus
Yeah.
Buzz Lightyear.
That'd be so funny. Especially considering the size of the toys in Dreamlight Valley.
Yes.
They're like the size of your ankle.
Woody versus Ursula.
Right? That's another one that's funny. Ursula's not in this one, but I was looking at the bracket right now. We have Din Djarin versus Thanos. Okay, the Mandalorian versus Thanos. Like, in case you're wondering, the quotes that we're using for them are... Din Djarin's quote is, "I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold." And then Thanos is, "I am inevitable." So... another interesting matchup that we have going on for that one. So this is, the more that I look at how these ended up, it's not a horrible matchup. The way that they were randomly seeded isn't horrible. Like, some of them are super interesting. So we'll probably do a prediction up on Discord. If you're not part of our Discord community, make sure that you join us. It's super easy to do that. Podketeers.com/links is where you will find an invite code. Just click on the Discord button and it'll take you over. You'll sign up within, a minute or so. We have a couple things that we can give away. And so we'll post some of the stuff that we have available. And if anybody wants to post their prediction brackets the way that we have in the past, make sure to post them up on Discord, and then whoever comes closest will get a prize. And I think it'll be pretty fun for people to try to
I got a box
predict.
full of prizes that I have to mail to
Yeah.
Heyzen to mail out. There's some good prizes in there, so
Yeah.
that means I gotta get to the post office.
There definitely is. Yeah. All right. Well, that kicks off March 8th. Remember, we're going to be doing all voting through our Instagram stories. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But, just choose one or the other, and we'll post the results. Podketeers.com will also have a post once the voting begins for this version of March Mayhem. We will post the image of the bracket. We'll post all of the matchups. And I will post all of the quotes that are going to be used throughout the competition as well. So if you're curious to read all of the quotes that we selected for this time around, head over to the post once it's up, and you'll be able to check them out there. Let's see. I want to talk about some movie stuff and some interesting Disney news that came up. Before we do, though, I do want to remind you that this episode of Podketeers is brought to you by an amazing group of listeners known as the FGP Squad, our podcast Fairy Godparents, because it is their support via Patreon that help make these episodes of Podketeers possible. For more info on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, you can head over to podketeers.com/FGP. There you will find a list of some of our top contributors, a link to our Patreon, some info on the FGP Squad. But being a part of the FGP Squad family gets you some additional perks, like a special section on Discord, access to our happy hour calls. We've uploaded additional content to Patreon that you can check out, and more. Sometimes I just do random giveaways. Sometimes I just send stuff out at random, whenever I'm testing new products, or, whenever I just feel like making something cool and sending it out. So, it's all part of being part of the FGP Squad. So, again, if you want more information, podketeers.com/FGP. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But, of course, to all of the members of the FGP Squad, we just want to send a huge thank you for your continued support. So, big movie news this week, because after waiting for so long, for this to happen, all of the rumors, all of the talking, all of the failed attempts, we finally got more information and a poster on the Bob Ross story starring Owen Wilson. That's right. That's what you came here to learn about. Owen Wilson playing Bob Ross. Comments on the big news this week.
Well, I'd just like to clarify that he is not playing Bob Ross. He's playing
What?
a Bob Ross. He's playing a Bob Ross type character. The movie is called Paint. He is playing a character named Carl Nargel. Anyway, it's basically a Bob Ross movie without using Bob Ross as a character. It's kind of like a maybe more like a parody movie or a
Sounds like
influence movie, but yeah, it's not Bob Ross, but it's basically Bob Ross. Like,
Okay. Well, not exactly the enthusiastic description of a movie that I was expecting, but that's what everybody came to hear.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
or not this Bob Ross story was happening. So I guess we can move on now.
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Good stuff.
Just kidding.
That's-
We got a trailer for the Haunted Mansion. It's happening. This is not a drill. We hope you've seen it because I don't know exactly what just came out of me right now. But my excitement
Oh.
level is like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a 27 right now.
Oh yeah,
Because
you are.
I'm sorry if my microphone peaked and everybody's like speakers went out, but here's the deal. Big fans of the Haunted Mansion. If you've been listening for a while, you know this. The Eddie Murphy version of the Haunted Mansion, when I first watched it, and even early on in the podcast, I had a love-hate relationship with that film. Or I have a love-hate relationship with that film, because when I first talked about it, I didn't like it. I was like, it's so goofy. It's like, hey, look, honey, they got dead people in the backyard. It's like there was something about it that just like it was mansion-y, but it wasn't mansion-y. Like it teetered too far into the comedic sector that just like for me, like I just wanted something spookier. And then we got news that Guillermo del Toro was going to be doing one of these. And we're like, oh, my God, this is it. Yeah. We're finally going to get our Spooky Mansion movie. And after this and that and talk and D23s and news, and then Guillermo del Toro's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Well, I don't know if I'm going to do this. True story. That's how it went down. That's exactly what he said.
Exactly, said word for word, verbatim.
And then finally, somebody stepped up and said, you know what, we're doing this. We're going to do this right. Danny DeVito is going to star in this film along with Rosario Dawson and Owen Wilson and all of these great actors. And guess what? The trailer looks amazing. There is a little bit of comedy, but it doesn't look like it's really leaning on that comedic aspect of the mansion. Like it looks like it's a more serious film. I mean, it's not like Memento serious, right? But like
Right.
it's not Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion. On top of that, seeing the Hatbox Ghost, seeing what they did with the Black Widow Bride, it makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
Little ghoulish heart.
Yeah, so it's trailer is great. It's interesting to see, to think about like the difference between this and the Eddie Murphy one. I think, the Haunted Mansion has a lot of like macabre humor and ironic humor in it. And I think when the Eddie Murphy movie was made, those things weren't as well, I don't know, people didn't receive them as well as they might today, so they kind of did more of a slapstick humor thing, which didn't take too well. So I think this is the right pathway to go. The trailer has a ton of references to the attraction. I mean, we start out with just, there it is, the Disneyland mansion, basically, modeled after the Disneyland mansion, which is that's what you want to see. I mean, that's what us Disneylanders want to see. I'm sure the Walt Disney World crowd would like to see the Walt Disney World mansion, but there's nothing as striking as that Disneyland mansion, and seeing that is just great. And they have, from the doors and the doorknobs in there, and you see the stretching room and, the bride, everything. It's that Hatbox Ghost model. He looks just like the Hatbox Ghost in the attraction. Like it's what you're looking for. Like Heyzen said, if you haven't seen this trailer, you're going to want to watch it to get excited. I mean, unless you want to be completely spoiler free, but this movie does seem like it's going to be leaning more into the spooktacular horror of it all. The kid is giving off some creepy vibes where he's like, what, I forget what he says, but he's like, "Will it though?" And he's like very, very scared. And then there's a very scary like horror movie soundtrack and creepy bride and everything. It's just it's giving you a very different vibes than the Eddie Murphy one. I've not seen anybody post about this online, so I don't know if I'm the only one that's seen this, but there is where you first see the Hatbox Ghosts figure. We also see some talking busts very briefly, so it looks like they're really adding everything into this that the fans of the attraction want to see. I mean, you get friggin' Hatchet Man in there, or a version of Hatchet Man. You get all kinds of stuff. It's very cool, and I'm sure, Mel, you have lots to say on this, so I'll try to stop myself.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just smiling in the background. The first thing that really came up to my head was they got the color palette right. With the Eddie Murphy one, it was too bright. It was too green. Like, too many bright colors. I'm like, Mansion's known for like its mute colors, its darker colors, darker tones. And they got it right this time. So that was awesome. It's thrilling. It's spooky in a way that kind of leads you like, oh, what's coming up next? Perfect, because that's exactly what the mansion is. What else do I want to say? I'm going to throw a reference that it reminds me of another film that Owen Wilson was actually in, and it's called The Haunting. And it's basically a home or a mansion per se. And it's the same kind of thing where everything is haunted in a way that it comes to life. It's only like one night, all that stuff. But it kind of gives me that vibe. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly how it should have been the first time around, which I've come around to really like and appreciate the Eddie Murphy one. So I'm not going to really trash it. Maybe it was meant for kids, I guess. I don't know. It exists. It exists. All right. So back to this one. So for this one, it's just more of the creepiness, the characters that we see. Victor Geist looks awesome with the ghost coming out of the organ. Of course, we see Hatbox Ghost. We don't see Leota yet, and I'm sure we'll see her, but I don't know if we've already seen her in human form per se, because there's some costuming that looks kind of like a crystal ball, so I'm like, that may be her, who knows. The bride looks amazing. I would love it if Disney brought that bride to the mansion. Like, her face gives us the old bride that we had in the attic with the red eyes that always would scare me. So she was pretty awesome. And I think it would be nice to have like that creepiness back. So, hey, there's this model right here in the film. Bring the film to life. You know how Disney likes to bring their IPs to attractions.
Yeah.
I am sorry. I'm all excited and just trying to just keep cool and stuff. But yeah, no, I am just as excited as you are. Not at level 25, maybe 11, but I'm there. So, yes,
Yeah,
I already know. Don't even ask me what I'm doing that day. I'm going to go see this movie. I don't know if I'll watch. I wonder if they'll have it in 3D.
I don't know.
wonder.
Oh, interesting.
IMAX.
Would be fun.
I mean, I would
That would be
probably
fun.
watch it twice.
We haven't
Yeah.
seen, just so you know, Melissa, we did not see Leota in the trailer because Leota is played by the great Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hey,
And so
that's true.
She's
Shame on me.
That's okay. I had to look it up to confirm my suspicions, but I was like, I remember she was in the movie. I just couldn't remember if that was who she was playing. So, yeah, she's Jamie Lee Curtis's Leota. There's also on the IMDb list, Winona Ryder and Dan Levy are listed
Yeah.
as no character. So I'm curious
Oh.
to see who they might be. Is Winona Ryder the bride? Is like, because there's no bride listed on the
That would be
Um,
awesome.
so
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I guess we shall see. We have a little while to wait, but it's there's so much there's so many Easter eggs in this trailer. I mean, I could go through
The clock.
the 13-hour clock. I mean,
yeah.
you have the stretching room with the gargoyle candle holders. You have the library with the busts. You have, I mean, it's, you know, they have their own version of the purple wallpaper. They have, it's just everything's in there. You have Black Panthers in the movie. You got all kinds of stuff.
It's funny when we were when they released the Muppets Haunted Mansion, I was so excited for that because I felt that they paid homage to the mansion in a way that I felt that the Eddie Murphy film didn't, right? And you know,
Yeah.
you made a great point, Mel. The Eddie Murphy version was definitely created for kids. Like you said, Andrew, slapstick funny, but the horror in the Eddie Murphy version was not intense to the point where, you know, kids wouldn't be able to watch it. You know, it was definitely geared towards kids. This one, I feel like if Guillermo del Toro would have done it and he would have been able to do like what he does, I feel like this would have bordered on like rated R, and Disney would have been like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen, right? Like it would have been too intense because you would have made it for adults. This, I think, marries those two, you know, spectrums together really well. And I remember saying when the Muppets Haunted Mansion came out that it was a love letter to Haunted Mansion fans because they did such a great job and they did such a great they represented so many things in the mansion so well in that. But now, just from the trailer, I really hope that the film doesn't disappoint. Like, I really hope that the trailer is used to supplement and not give away, like, the best parts of the film the way that trailers normally tend to do. But if this film holds up, just from what we're seeing in the trailer, this is the real love letter to the Haunted Mansion fans. The Muppets Haunted Mansion was a Post-it note compared to this, right? And that's
a memo.
Not that I'm downgrading it or anything like that. Like, it sounds like I am, but like Muppets Haunted Mansion was so awesome. Like, it's definitely in my rotation of stuff to watch. It's so well made. But if this film holds up, I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am. And when I saw the trailer, like, I watched it before we started recording, and I felt like there could have been a tear in my eye. I was so happy.
Oh yeah,
with what we were
your
getting.
reactions were fun to watch.
It's just, like you said, everything is represented so well, and at least from the way that it's positioned in the trailer, it feels like certain things are happening. Like, there's a scene where the walls are beginning to stretch. Like, you got the stretching room scene, right? And then right before that, you see all of the walls closing up and the windows go away, the doors go away, and, you know, it's setting up the stretching room scene. Like, the way that it's portrayed doesn't feel like it's this hokey little thing that just happens in the mansion. Like, there seems to be fear in their eyes as this is happening. Like, there's a purpose behind it. It's not just like shoehorned in because it's just, well, it's part of the mansion, we got to include it. You know, like everything seems to be positioned really well when telling the story. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most here. That it just, I don't even know how to continue describing it. I'm so happy that this is happening. This trailer makes me so happy, and I'm looking forward to it. 287.982%.
We haven't even seen the seance room. And that's like one of the highlights right there. The ballroom. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more that's going to just smack us across the face. So, with love.
I mean, I've stepped through this trailer so many times, frame by frame, and there's just so much, like, there's stuff that you don't kind of pick up on if you don't do this. So like you're talking about the stretching room, the windows and doors closing up. The second set that closes, the Hatbox Ghost is outside of the window, like holding his hat box there, his glowing hat box. So that's interesting. Then like the next frame is somebody running down a hallway who has like, they have like a weird light gun camera thing. Like there's so much like weird stuff that I recommend, if anybody wants to see all these like little details, go onto YouTube. You have to do this on a computer, but go frame by frame. And if you use the period and the comma on your keyboard, those are to step forward and backwards frame by frame. So I recommend everybody, if you really want to see, like, dig into the backgrounds of these frames, because there's so much detail in every single one of these shots. It's just bananas. So yeah, go on YouTube and go frame by frame, and you'll be able to see just there's so much stuff in this trailer, which gives me very high hopes for the film.
Ah, man, I feel like I need to take a break after that. There's so much emotion running through my body right now just thinking about this. And you know, the visual effects house that's doing it, I think is the same house that's done like some of the Harry Potter stuff and Inception and Dark Knight. So I mean, they've done some really great visual effects for other films. I think Industrial Light and Magic is also helping out with some of it, but I think DNEG is going to be the primary visual effects house that's going to be handling a lot of those effects. So kudos to them on an amazing job, because just from the trailer, this is already it's already mind-blowing. So cool. So let's this is like one of those great moments where if we had cutaways, we could be like, all right, we need to take a quick break. I need to bring my heart rate down from all the excitement. Let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this. And then we could go away, but you know, maybe we need cutaways, like, so that we could just take a quick break going forward.
It just
would
like
definitely
music
help with bathroom breaks, right? Like
Yeah.
just old Muzak stuff.
just do the theme, just the doot, 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 and we're back from the break.
I guess I could, right? Like, but anyway. Okay. So, a couple things. Not a lot of information is known about these other two. These are kind of brand new stories that are coming out. So, we're hoping to get more as time progresses. But before we jump into great moments with Mr. Andrew, we just wanted to quickly comment on this. But Bob Iger came back. You know, he's working with the Disney company and the board and everything on a new successor. Obviously, the last one that he appointed didn't go as well as they thought it was going to go. And I saw an article that says that on the short list of people to take over the Disney company is a gentleman named Adam Silver. He currently works in the NBA. His contract expires in 2024. And I'm not familiar with Adam Silver because I'm not a huge basketball fan, but I don't hear very good things. You know, he's been the NBA commissioner for some time, I believe, but yeah, I just haven't heard many great things about him. And what I have heard worries me as far as, him running the company. Have either of you heard anything about him?
Nope.
I've not heard anything good. I was doing a search of him because I don't know too much about him, but I know that like the NBA, I mean, just like with anything, fans get upset, but like the NBA stuff was not to I don't know. My grandpa's a big basketball fan, and I don't think he's a big fan. But I did look up Adam Silver, and the first thing that came up was an article from July of last year. Adam Silver is full of bad ideas nobody wants, is the title of the article.
Wow.
So maybe not the best choice for one of the world's largest entertainment companies. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope it's not true. I mean, obviously the Disney company is going to do whatever is going to make them the most money, and if they feel that Adam Silver's way of thinking is going to bring them more money, obviously they're going to take that route. But I hope that they also take into consideration that the reason Bob Chapek clashed with so many and people would refer to him as a bean counter is because he put the company profits, which makes sense, he put the company profits ahead of the experience for a lot of people. And Disney is experience based. What you get in the parks, what you get with the films, what you get when you go on the cruises, when you stay in the hotels, and like all of that is part of the Disney experience and the Disney magic. And that's what was lacking, for a lot of the time that Bob Chapek was in charge of the company. And so when you hear about Adam Silver's reputation, and then, you search for that article, and the first thing is, pointing to some negativity, it makes you wonder whether or not the board is going to say, well, who cares? Our bottom line is to make money, so let's just bring him in and do what we can. Or if they're going to look back on the last couple of years and think, well, Bob Chapek did similar things, maybe we should take a different approach, and take, this route or something like that. So again, it's a newer story. I think we're still learning about it, and again, nothing's been confirmed. It's just what people hear. It's being reported as him being on the short list of possible successors for Bob Iger, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But there was another article that broke today that talks about Bruce Vaughn returning to the Disney company. Bruce Vaughn worked at Imagineering for 22 years, I believe. There was this huge shakeup, that was already happening. But Bruce Vaughn left the company back in 2016, and then he became the CEO of a VR firm called Dreamscape Immersive. He did all sorts of virtual reality stuff. And then from there, he went on to work at Airbnb. He was part of the creative product team at Airbnb. He spent the last year and a half or so working there. But, I mean, he's been a part of some pretty big projects with the Disney company. He's worked in stuff for Tokyo, for Shanghai. He worked on Cars Land. He's done all sorts of stuff in the time that he was with Imagineering. Now that Bob Iger is back, I'm wondering if this is in answer to the fact that Bob Weiss recently left the company, and he's working with an architectural firm, I believe. Either way, Bruce Vaughn, I think, is one of those experienced Imagineers that works well with a lot of his colleagues, and he's done a lot of really great stuff for the company. I think this is one of the more positive changes that we've seen in some time. We've heard about a lot of Imagineers leaving. Bob Weiss, who was leading Imagineering, left. Joe Rohde left. And, when you start hearing some of these popular Imagineers leaving, you get a little worried. But this, I think, is kind of a bit of a turn. It seems to be a positive change for Imagineering. And I'm hoping that his return is a positive experience for other Imagineers that will be working with him.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see creativity come back to Imagineering. With somebody that is tried and true, with Bruce. Like you said, Tokyo Disney Sea, the most beautiful park that's ever existed. He was like the creative lead on, and Hong Kong Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland, Star Tours, the whole California Adventure redo, like all of these different things he was at the helm for. So it's very exciting to see this. Hopefully there might be some more that follow in his footsteps. Maybe he's able to outstretch that goodwill to some other former Imagineers that may have had their tenure cut short because of reasons. So here's hoping.
Yeah, I pretty much share the same sentiment. Like, it's sad. It was sad when we saw a lot of Imagineers, a lot of creative minds leave the company. So to see him return, and at first I wasn't familiar with the name. I was familiar with the projects, but to be familiar with him again, it does bring you hope. It does bring the possibilities of more magic, and it is exciting because you want to see what's going to happen, like what he's going to do in his new position. So we'll see. I believe he starts the end of the month, or close to the end of the month, so I'm sure we're not going to hear yet, but let's see in the end of the year to see what happens. So it'll be fun to like check back and see what has happened. But yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, and I think he's actually sharing the responsibility of running Imagineering with Barbara Bauza. I don't think he's doing it on his own. I think it's like a co-lead role that he's stepping into. But, the co-lead roles, I think we've talked about it before, like even as a replacement for Bob Iger. I think there's benefits to having the dual leaders that way because, you bounce ideas off of each other and, some may be stronger in some points and some may be stronger in others, and you can find a really good balance that, can help lead a team in a direction where, you're putting out really great stuff. So, yeah, I think over the course of the next several months, we're definitely going to be hearing more about, what they're doing at Imagineering, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be hearing some exciting stuff later in the year. Okay, well, I guess before we wrap up the podcast, this is a great time to learn a little bit more about Disney history as we celebrate Disney's 100 years. And, of course, we've been doing that weekly with some great moments with Mr. Andrew.
The world has never had a good definition of the word liberty. And I'm not going to keep doing that. I finally looked at the script, so I had a Lincoln quote to do because I always forget anytime. But let's get into it.
Before you get into it, you know what we could have done? We could have taken the entire script of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and every week you could have said one line from it, where at the end, if you put them all together, it was the entire speech.
That would have been funny, but we didn't do that.
Start at 50. There you go.
Right?
It's not very long. Like, there's not a ton of lines. I just looked at there's a lot of like music and songs and stuff in it that are part of it, like narrator stuff. Anyway, so the years we're covering this week are 1941 and 1942. So we'll get right to it with the elephant in the room. Here, 1941, turmoil is brewing. The last few films for Disney didn't do as well financially as the company would have hoped, so profits are down and layoffs are imminent. Simultaneously, Walt's animators want to unionize. Over 400 animators had signed cards wishing to join the Cartoonist Guild, but Walt kept pushing to have the animators be represented by his in-house union, the Cartoonist Federation. To his dismay, the National Labor Relations Board declares that Walt's Cartoonist Federation is illegal and orders it to be disbanded. After that, Walt fires 20 animators who had signed with the Screen Cartoonist Guild, including Art Babbitt, who was leading one of the leaders of the union movement. On May 29th, 1941, 300 to 700 Disney animators and members of the Screen Cartoonists Guild stage a strike on the Disney studios. More than 1,000 picketers appear in the first hour of the strike. Many people urged Walt to settle the strike, including the bank who was underwriting the company's stock. The Printing Council forces a temporary withdrawal of the Mickey Mouse comic strip from its newspapers in support of the strikers, and the Technicolor Corporation announced its refusal to process any Disney film until the studio recognizes the Screen Cartoonists Guild. The strike got so much attention that President Franklin Roosevelt sent federal labor counselor Stanley White to Hollywood to try and work out the settlement of the Disney strike. On September 9th, Roy Disney agrees to settle the employee strike via binding arbitration, and on September 14th, 1941, the strike officially ended. Work resumed at the studio on September 16th, but with only 694 employees on the payroll, down from 1,200 at the start of the strike. So that's the big beast of 1941. Other than that, in 1941, Pinocchio wins 2 Oscars, one for Best Score and one for Best Song for When You Wish Upon a Star. Fantasia wins awards from both the National Board of Review and the New York Film Critics Circle. On June 20th, Disney releases its first live-action film, The Reluctant Dragon, which had its premiere at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood. Walt, Lillian, and a team of animators take a trip to South America as a goodwill tour and to get inspiration for new films. On September 13th, the day before the animator strike ended, Elias Disney, the father of Walt and Roy, passes away in Los Angeles. On October 23rd, Disney released Dumbo to theaters. And on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor is bombed. The very next day, U.S. troops move onto the Disney lot. The station troops took up approximately 50% of the space on the lot. By the end of the year, 20 shorts were released, which include for higher education and technical films produced by the company. Now that brings us into 1942, which sees the company helping with war efforts the best way it knows how, with animation, of course. The U.S. Naval Bureau of Aeronautics hires Disney to make 20 animated training films, and the Donald Duck film Donald Gets Drafted is released, which would be the first Disney war-themed cartoon released during World War II. Awards that year include Dumbo winning an Oscar for Best Score, and the short Lenda Pa winning Best Short. Leopold Stokowski is awarded a special Oscar for, quote, widening the scope of motion picture as an entertainment and as an art form. And Walt received the Irving Thalberg Memorial Award from the Academy. The National Board of Review awards the Best American Film to Dumbo. On August 13th, Disney premiered Bambi at Radio City Music Hall, and on August 24th, premiered Saludos Amigos in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. By the end of August, the U.S. military ends its occupation at the Disney studio, and in November, the National Labor Relations Board rules that Disney must reinstate Art Babbitt. By the end of the year, they had produced 27 shorts. That includes educational and the military shorts. So that's 1941, 1942, lots of history compacted into just a few minutes, but there's so much information on the strike that if you really, there's books and books written about the animator strike, that if you really want to get into the detail of it, there's so much information out there. There's also a lot of information out there about Disney's war efforts for World War II. The Walt Disney Family Museum did a whole section on a whole, what do you call it? Like a installation. They did a whole installation on Disney in with the World War II. So there's these 2 years kind of a lot of stuff happens. So it's kind of hard to distill it down into just a few minutes. But yeah, if you want any information on this stuff, there's so much information out there for you to find.
Yeah, it kind of gives me an idea to go back and create one of our good old-fashioned history full episodes where we just kind of hit like a single topic throughout the entire episode. I think both of those things, the war efforts and having an episode dedicated to the strike itself. I mean, there was so much that came out of that, and it really helped mold a lot of how animation was done after. A lot of things definitely changed after that, but let's discuss that on the side. I think it would be interesting for us to create an episode for each of those, just like a dedicated episode.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's so much. I mean, with what was going on in Walt's head during this animator strike, because it's a lot of it's like, well, he feels like it's his thing and he did all this stuff, but at the same time the company is growing so much that like the union, like unions are a thing that you're gonna have to deal with, and and it's feels like he's losing control of his company, and did he react in the best way? I don't think so, and I don't think anybody thinks he did. But those were the things that happened, and the president of the United States had to get involved, and you know what, the company's still around, so they figured it out. But yeah, it was maybe not the best thing to present him in the best light at that point. There also, like, there's a lot of this is World War II. There's a lot of like communism talk and stuff like that. So there's a lot of rumors going around about stuff I didn't even include, like animators, like there was pamphlets going around Hollywood saying, "Oh, Art Babbitt's a communist," and all this stuff. And there's just like that. That was at the time where they just call anybody a communist if you wanted to get back at somebody. That's a good way to get the government to look at them, I guess. I don't know. I didn't read too much into it, but yeah, it's just it's ripe for the picking. Any information on the strike? There's so many books and so much information that we could dedicate a whole month to the strike. It might get a little like depressing a little bit, but there's a lot of information out there. Yeah, that's history.
There's so many rabbit holes that you could just fall into if you were to just take one portion of the strike and just go right into it. And then when you hear when you learn about the other side, there's another little side rabbit hole, and you're like, whoop, there you go, just going down.
Yeah.
And then there's all this information.
It only lasted 4 months. I mean, that's pretty long for a strike, but like so much happened leading up to it, and just in those 4 months that it's definitely we should do something on it. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there for sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. We'll definitely take that offline and try to create something for a future episode. And also, if you have any ideas of things that you'd like us to talk about, post them up on Discord. Our community on Discord is slowly growing, and we've been welcoming new members recently. So shout out to all of our new members on Discord. But if there's ever a topic that you'd like us to talk about, leave a suggestion. Over in the general channel, we'd love the feedback, and we'd love to create some episodes that I think everybody would be interested in. Just like this, like the strike and all that, I think is definitely, like, I know, like you said, it would be depressing, but I mean, history is history, right? That's the thing.
Exactly.
Like,
no, it's
the good thing about knowing what happens is, I mean, hopefully you learn from it. That's always what you hope happens. Sadly, that doesn't always happen, and sometimes real life, clashes, and you realize that not everybody has learned the lessons from the past. But it's part of the reason why it's important to know history, and why it's important to know, how things happen. So I'm definitely interested in this episode, definitely interested in extending that segment. But I think that's a great place to end this episode. If you have any comments on anything that we talked about, again, join the community over on Discord. Join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on anything that we talked about in the episode. Post your brackets for March Mayhem. Again, we're going to be launching this the day that this episode launches. So if you have any predictions, just you could take a picture, save the image that I posted on Discord, fill it out, post a picture of your prediction bracket, and let's see who gets the closest. Like we said earlier, we have a few prizes stashed away that we'd be happy to send out to whoever gets the closest. I want to say last year, Brian, FGP Squad member Brian, got the closest, so he won a prize.
He did.
And he got a little something from us. So let's see how it goes. This one's going to be interesting. Biggest bracket we've ever done. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a wild ride. What is it, Andrew? The wildest?
It's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
That's right.
Something like that.
Truly is. Also, we got a new Quizneyland this week, so remember to check that out in the feed. And that's it. That's gonna wrap it up for this week. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep moving forward, and always remember to pass on the magic. Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Part of the Podketeers Network.